Hey, this is Howard from Cycle Van. You might have found us here on PromasterWorld.com. And today we're talking about the rear bumper step for the Promaster. So we have this nice aggressive tread Promaster bumper step that's going to bolt right to existing hardware under the truck. It's a straightforward installation. You'll be in and out from under this truck in about 35-40 minutes, and everything you need is in the setup. We got the brackets that hold the step. We got the main brackets that go up to the frame. We got the hardware, and we got the galvanized hardware to hold this galvanized step to the brackets. Simple hand tools will do the installation. Everybody's got them in the garage, and you can easily accomplish this laying on a piece of cardboard in your driveway. All right, so now we're going to disconnect the backup sensor modules from the rest of the harness here, and that's accomplished by popping down this connector. Right here, I'm going to put it back so you know. There's a little metal tab. You're going to pop that off. It's on the passenger side. And then there's a little clip, and you disconnect it. So now we're ready to take this plastic cover off. Okay, so we're going to take off this plastic cover, and we're going to use a number 30 Torx drive bit. And we got 4 of these fasteners on the bottom, and we got 4 on top. Now once the plastic bumper cover's off, we're going to take these 2 nuts off. There's one on each side. One's right by this tie-down loop, and the other one is in the same spot. Right behind the spring shackle, we're going to pop that off. 15mm shallow socket will do nicely. So just pop these off. There's a little thread locker on them, but you can easily overpower that. Okay, so we've taken off these 16mm bolts now with a shallow socket. It's a little easier for underneath. And we're going to take the bolts off on the one side only, and we're going to slide our bracket in, and then we're going to go on the other side and do the same. All right, so I'm taking this bolt out on this side, and I loosened these up over here because we're going to want to leave those in a little bit so we can pull this out without fighting it. I'm going to take this out. We're going to slide this plate in behind here. 2 holes are on the top, of course, because you got the 2 holes up top and the threaded stud here. This piece goes toward the inside. And when you tighten it, you're going to push this in while you're tightening it. So we got that in. We got the original nut that came off. We're going to start that. Finger tight's okay. Got a little bit of grease on these threads. Make life easy putting these bolts in. So now I got a 17mm on the socket wrench. We're going to kind of run these in a little bit, so you got more than just a little bit of slop. So we're going to run these in a little bit, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on this side. Whereas we're pulling this away, we left those bolts over there a little bit loose, so we have the room to pull this out, put that on, put the lower stud in, and you're going to thread the nut from underneath. A couple of threads. And you're going to take these bolts, put a little grease on them. The reason why you're putting some grease on them is because there's some thread locking agent that the factory puts on when they put these bolts, and you don't want to fight it. So by putting a little grease on the bolts that we ship you, that you will tighten up with a 17mm wrench, it'll make life easy. Now, when you put this in, you're going to make sure when you tighten these, you're going to push these, you're going to push this in and the bracket that we ship you for the step against it while you're tightening it. All right, so now we put the primary brackets on the truck, the main brackets on the truck, and we're going to hang the secondary brackets to facilitate the plank to be mounted to. All right, so these are on, they're tight, they're facing the correct way. This is how this is oriented. This flat part goes against here. And we're going to bring these half-inch nuts and bolts with washers through here. Lock nut. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, so we mounted the secondary brackets onto the primary brackets. And we set the running board plank on it. We stood back, we eyeballed it, make sure that this measurement from here and here is equal. We took a tape measure from the underside of this to the top of the plank. We looked straight down to make sure that the gap was even all around. And then we put the diamond washers in a few of these holes already. I'll show you how they go in. Anyway, this measurement, in order to make this centered on the vehicle, is 8 inches from the end of the metal to where these slots lie. So basically from here to here is 8 inches. Same thing on the other side. And then we're going to take the dime washer. We got a carriage bolt, square hole, drops in. Well, I don't have the nut, but oh, here it is. Okay, so we're going to have a flat washer, lock washer, and a nut from underneath. Put them on, tighten them up, and then we're going to put the plastic cover on and look at it one more time. We're going to measure. We're going to keep measuring it so we got this. Now, let's say this thing's off, you know, a 16th or an 1/8 of an inch, and you don't like the way it looks. You want to adjust it. You can get enough play out of these bolts to get that level. If you have to slide it up a little bit, you can. Just loosen them up, slide it up, make sure you're in and out. So you might take a time or two to get that right, but it's easy enough to do. Now we're going to put the plastic on. Okay, we're looking good, and we got the plank all mounted. All our measurements check out. Visually, we check out. We stand back. Everything looks nice, and we're going to put the plastic cover on. This particular one has the sensors in it, so we're going to hold this wire out of the way so it doesn't get caught up in the works. We're going to slide that right in place. Okay, and we got 8 bolts to put back in, so we're going to start snugging them in now. Now, what you're going to do is just get them all started. And we're going to do that real quick, and then I'm going to do a final tightening in a second. All right, let's get these off. All right, so we got the plastic cover on. I did tighten the bolts, the outer bolts. We still have a couple more underneath, and these 4. What I wanted to show is that we got a little bit of a gap here because we have a bracket for the bumper that brings it out approximately 1/4 of an inch. But that's easily dealt with by tightening these up. All right, so we got the hardware, the plank, the brackets all on and tight. We're pretty pleased with the appearance and levelness of the tightened running board. Again, if you have to make micro adjustments, you can always go and loosen up the bolts that hold the primary and secondary brackets together and get a little bit of play out of them. We put the plastic on. I put the bolts in this end and this end, and I started to thread the rest of them in, and I'm going to put these in tight, and I'm going to go underneath and finish. I just wanted to highlight the fact that there's a tiny 1/4 inch gap that we have now because of the brackets are 1/4 inch thick, and we're just going to simply tighten the bumper plastic, and it'll yield right in. And then we have a finished step. We're going to go underneath and tighten up the other 2 bolts. We're going to plug in the sensor and clip the connector back up out of the way. And we're going to eyeball it one more time. This looks pretty good. Again, if there's micro adjustments that have to be made, we can always do that between these 2 brackets. All right, so everything's tight. Everything looks good, everything's appealing to the eye, everything looks level, everything checks out with the tape measure. And I just wanted to show what you've gained by putting this product on your truck. We have from the top of the step to the top of the floor is 10.5 inches. From the top of the bumper to the top of the plastic bumper is 7.5. So you've kind of split this big step almost in half to get into this truck. It's going to be much easier on your body if you get in and out of this thing several times a day. Easy up, easy down. And that's it. Visit us at promasterworld.com. Cycle Van is our company name, but we have several websites dedicated to promasterworld.com, sprinterworld.com, nvvan.com, fordvanworld.com. Thank you for visiting us.